The human was not supposed to wake up. That was the first thing the alien healer thought as the heart monitor vine suddenly tightened, glowing bright gold instead of its usual calm blue. No human had ever regained consciousness this early after exposure to Karen radiation. No human had ever survived it at all. Yet here he was. Ethan Cross woke as if dragged upward through deep water, lungs burning, thoughts scattered like broken glass. His fingers twitched first. Then his eyes opened. He was not on his ship. He was not dead either. Above him stretched a curved ceiling made of living fibers, faintly translucent, breathing in slow rhythms. Soft lights pulsed within the walls, not artificial, not mechanical, alive. The air smelled clean and strange, like rain mixed with metal and warm soil. His body felt heavy, but not broken. A silhouette leaned over him. Tall. Slender. Not human. Ethan's training screamed at him to move, to reach for a weapon that was no longer there, but his body refused. The alien's face came into focus slowly. Smooth skin, pale with a faint shimmer beneath it. Large dark eyes filled with something unreadable. Long fingers moved gently, adjusting a cluster of floating crystal instruments. Then she smiled. It was not a cruel smile. It was not kind either. "You are awake earlier than expected," she said calmly. Her voice was melodic, careful, as if every word was chosen to avoid breaking something fragile. Ethan tried to speak. His throat burned. "Where am I?" "You are inside a healer's shelter," she replied. "You were found unconscious in the debris field near the black zone." Memory rushed back in fragments. The mission. The ambush. The impossible energy spike that had not matched any known alien weapon. His ship tearing apart while alarms screamed. "You should not be alive," the healer continued, almost to herself. "Yet you are." Ethan forced his head to turn slightly. He saw the tent. No, not a tent. It was grown, not built. Roots formed the floor beneath him, pulsing faintly with energy. Strange plants curved inward, forming protective arcs around the bed. This place was hidden. Deliberate. "Why did you save me?" he asked. The healer did not answer immediately. She picked up a small device that hovered above his chest, reading symbols that meant nothing to him. Then she looked at his face again. "Because you spoke," she said. Ethan frowned weakly. "Spoke?" "Yes." Her smile returned, smaller now. Sharper. "You talked in your sleep." A cold shiver crawled down his spine. "That's not possible," he said. "I was unconscious." "Your mind was not," she replied. "It was very active." Ethan's heart rate spiked. The vine tightened again, reacting instantly. He tried to slow his breathing. "What did I say?" he asked. The healer hesitated. For the first time since he woke, she seemed uncertain. "You said," she began carefully, "that the signal was not an attack." Ethan's blood ran cold. "You said," she continued, watching his face closely, "that the explosion was a test. That someone wanted to see how humans would react when cornered." Silence filled the living tent. "That information," Ethan said slowly, "was classified above Fleet Command. No one outside my unit knew it." "I know," the healer said. "How?" She met his gaze directly now. "No fear."
No επάλεγη.
"Because humans think differently," she said. "Even when unconscious, your minds do not rest. They solve. They adapt. They reach." Ethan clenched his jaw. Pain flared through his body, but he ignored it. "Who are you?" he asked. "My name is Salith," she replied. "I belong to a neutral order. We do not interfere in wars." "Then why am I here?" "Because neutrality ends," Salith said quietly, "when extinction becomes inefficient." That made no sense. And it made too much sense at the same time. Ethan stared at the ceiling as pieces began connecting in his mind. The energy spike. The way alien forces had withdrawn too quickly. The unnatural silence after the attack. "You're afraid," he said. Salith's eyes narrowed slightly. "Of what?" "Of us." For several seconds, She said nothing. Then she turned away, adjusting the instruments again. Rest, she said. Your body is still repairing itself. Answer me, Ethan pressed. Why did you really bring me here? Salith stopped. She exhaled slowly. Because your species does something no other species does, she said. When faced with something impossible, you don't ask if you can win. She looked back at him. You ask how much it will cost. Ethan gave a faint, tired smile. That's called being human. Her gaze lingered on him longer than necessary. Outside the shelter, the forest shifted. Roots tightened deeper into the soil. Sensors buried beneath the ground adjusted their focus, not on the stars, but on the man inside the tent. Elsewhere in the galaxy, fleets calculated probabilities. Human survival remained statistically insignificant. They were about to be wrong. Ethan slept again, but this time it was not the heavy, empty darkness of injury. His dreams were sharp, fragmented, full of movement. He saw numbers folding into symbols. Star maps bending like glass. He felt the echo of the explosion again, but now he noticed what fear had hidden before. The timing was wrong. Too precise. Too measured. When he woke, the tent was brighter. The living walls pulsed with a faster rhythm, reacting to his heartbeat before the Vine monitor even tightened. That alone told him something important. This place was not just healing him. It was listening. Salith stood near the edge of the shelter, speaking softly into the air. No device.
No visible interfase.
The air shimmered briefly, then stilled. You are improving faster than predicted, she said without turning. Your cellular repair rate is impressive. That's one word for it, Ethan replied, pushing himself upright. Pain flared, then faded quickly, like his nerves had learned better manners overnight. He paused, surprised. Humans did not heal like this. Not without years of research, gene therapy, or very expensive mistakes. Salith turned to face him. Her expression was controlled, but her eyes flicked briefly to his hands, now steady, now strong. You should not be sitting yet, she said. You should not be surprised, Ethan answered. You already said we don't think like everyone else. She studied him for a moment. Then, instead of arguing, she nodded once. Then listen, she said. Because thinking differently has consequences. She gestured, and the shelter opened. Not with a door, but with surrender. The living walls peeled back smoothly, revealing the world outside. Ethan inhaled sharply. The forest stretched in every direction, vast and layered, glowing softly under a sky painted with unfamiliar constellations. Massive trees twisted upward, their branches forming natural arches. Floating spores drifted like slow stars. The ground hummed beneath his bare feet when he stood, vibrating gently, like a distant engine. This world is hidden, Salith said as she stepped beside him. It exists between mapped territories. It is old. Older than most alliances. Older than most lies. Ethan glanced at her. And we crashed into it by accident. No, she replied. You were guided. That landed harder than any injury. By who? He asked. Salith did not answer directly. Instead, she led him forward. The forest responded, roots shifting aside, light adjusting to their movement. It was unsettling how intentional everything felt. They reached a clearing. At its center stood something that did not belong in any forest. A structure, smooth, angular, metallic. Human. Ethan froze. That's impossible, he said. Salith watched his reaction closely. Is it? The markings were worn, scorched by time, but unmistakable. Old Terran design. Pre-unification era. Experimental hull plating. This ship crashed centuries ago, Salith said. Long before your kind reached this region. Ethan's mind raced. That's not possible. We didn't have deep-range capability then. And yet, she said softly, your dead are already here. He approached the hull slowly, placing a hand against the cold metal. A familiar chill ran through him. Not fear. Recognition. This changes everything, he murmured. Yes, Salith agreed. That is why you were brought here. Not saved. Brought. She activated something near the wreck. The ground trembled, and the ship's interior lights flickered weakly to life. Inside, holographic recordings shimmered into view. Humans. Worn uniforms. Old insignias. Voices crackling with static. We don't know who will find this, a recorded officer said, eyes tired but sharp. But if you're human, listen carefully. Ethan swallowed. They're testing us, the recording continued. The council species. They provoke. They isolate. They observe how civilizations respond under pressure. Most collapse. Some surrender. None adapt fast enough. The hologram glitched. We didn't, the officer said with a grim smile. We survived long enough to learn their pattern. Ethan felt something cold and electric settle in his chest. That's what I said in my sleep, he whispered. The explosion wasn't an attack. It was bait. Salith nodded. Your mind resonated with the truth stored here. This forest amplifies memory. Thought. Intention. The recording resumed. If you're seeing this, the officer said, it means humanity made it farther than we did. Good. That means you're ready for the part they don't expect. The hologram cut off. Silence pressed in. Ethan straightened slowly. His pain was gone now, replaced by something else. Focus. Clarity. They think we're predictable, he said. Violent. Emotional. Easy to manipulate. Yes, Salith said. That is the consensus. Ethan smiled, but there was no humor in it. Then they've already lost, he said. Salith turned fully toward him. What will you do? Ethan looked at the wrecked ship. At the forest that had protected it for centuries. At the healer who had broken neutrality to save one human. We won't rush, he said. We won't strike blindly. We'll let them believe the test worked. He met her gaze. And then we'll show them what happens when you pressure a species that evolved by surviving impossible odds. Salith was quiet for a long moment. Then she inclined her head. The pattern agrees, she said. And the forest listens. High above, hidden beyond normal sensors, something shifted its attention. For the first time, the observers began recalculating. And for the first time, humanity was no longer just reacting. It was preparing. The forest did not sleep. That was the first thing Ethan noticed as time passed. When darkness settled across the sky, the veilwood only changed its rhythm. Lights dimmed and shifted colors. Roots tightened. Distant tones echoed like a slow heartbeat. Ethan sat near the wrecked human ship while Salith worked nearby, adjusting living instruments grown from the soil itself. His body felt stronger now. Too strong. His reflexes were sharper. His thoughts clearer. The healing had gone beyond repair. You altered me, he said quietly. Salith did not deny it. I stabilized you, she replied. Your species adapts faster when pushed. I simply removed the delays. That's a dangerous choice, Ethan said. So is letting humanity walk blind into extermination, she answered. He watched her for a moment. You really broke neutrality for me. For you. Salith shook her head. No. For what comes next? She gestured toward the wreck. Your ancestors were not the first humans to stumble into the pattern. They were the first to listen. Ethan leaned back against the cold metal hull. Then they died for it. They survived long enough to leave instructions, Salith corrected. That matters. A tremor rippled through the ground. Ethan felt it instantly. Not through his feet, but deeper, like pressure behind the eyes. The forest reacted. Light dimmed. Leaves pulled inward. Silence sharpened. They're scanning, Salith said. Who? Ethan asked, already knowing the answer. The observers, she replied. They do not interfere directly. They provoke, measure, and record. Your crash triggered curiosity. Your survival triggered concern. Ethan stood. Then let's give them something worth recording. Salith studied him. You are thinking offensively. I'm thinking asymmetrically, Ethan said. They expect reaction, panic, retaliation. And instead we let them see weakness, he replied. Confusion, fear, fragmented signals. Salith's eyes narrowed with interest. You want to lie to a species that built civilizations on probability forecasting, she said. Ethan smiled faintly. No. I want to overload their certainty. He crouched near the wreck, accessing a partially intact terminal. The systems were ancient, but familiar. Human logic had not changed as much as everyone thought. These ships weren't meant to fight, Ethan said. They were meant to observe without being seen. Yes, Salith said. Until they were seen anyway. Ethan's fingers moved faster as the forest reacted, feeding energy into the systems like a silent partner. Humans don't win by being stronger, Ethan said. We win by being annoying. Salith paused. Annoying. Unpredictable, he clarified. We adapt in ways that don't look efficient on paper. That's what keeps us alive. A pulse of energy surged through the terminal. A faint signal leaked into space, not strong enough to be tracked easily. Not weak enough to ignore. Salith's expression shifted. You are broadcasting. Fragments, Ethan said. Old distress codes. Inconsistent data. Contradictory readings. The forest amplified the signal, bending it slightly, distorting intent without hiding origin. To the observers, Salith realized. You're pretending to break. Yes, Ethan said. And while they lean closer. He stopped typing and looked at her. We learn how close they really are. The ground trembled again. This time stronger. Above the canopy, the sky rippled. Salith inhaled sharply. They are adjusting observation distance. That means. They're worried, Ethan finished. A new presence pressed against Ethan's awareness. Not a voice. Not a thought. A pressure. Cold. Calculating. The pattern stirred. Salith stepped closer to Ethan. They are analyzing you specifically now. Good, Ethan said. That means they're not looking elsewhere. She met his gaze. You are drawing attention to yourself. That's what humans do, he replied. Someone has to stand in the open while everyone else moves. A sudden wave of static flooded the terminal. Symbols scrambled. The forest lights flickered. They're probing, Salith said. Ethan closed his eyes. Instead of resisting, he remembered. The training drills. The lost ships. The stubborn refusal to surrender that defined his species. He let the emotion surface. Not fear, not rage, but defiance. The forest reacted violently. Roots surged upward. Light flared. The pattern responded, echoing his intent outward, distorting it just enough. The probing force hesitated. Salith stared. They withdrew. For now, Ethan said, breathing hard. We just proved something important. What? She asked. They can see us, he said. But they can't read us cleanly. Silence settled again, heavier than before. Salith spoke softly. Do you understand what this means? Ethan nodded. They're not gods. They're analysts. And analysts hate uncertainty, she said. Ethan smiled. Then let's give them a whole species of it. Deep in the void, the observers recorded the anomaly. Human cognitive output did not collapse under pressure. It multiplied. For the first time in recorded cycles, a test subject altered the test itself. The equation was no longer stable. And somewhere within the pattern, something ancient shifted, not in fear, but in approval. The observers did not retreat far. Ethan felt it before Salith confirmed it. A tightening in the air. A pressure like gravity deciding to lean in closer. The forest reacted first. The glow dimmed to deeper shades. Roots coiled tighter, not in panic, but in readiness. They are no longer passive, Salith said. This is escalation. Ethan nodded. Good. That means we've crossed the line where pretending brakes stop working. She turned to him sharply. You plan to stop pretending. I plan to change the story, he replied. They stood at the edge of the clearing, the wrecked human ship behind them, the living forest around them like a quiet army. Ethan's thoughts were moving faster now, branching, connecting. The pattern amplified everything, but it didn't control him. It listened. They test civilizations the same way, Ethan said. Stress, isolation, fear. Then they predict outcomes. Yes, Salith agreed. It has worked every time. Because everyone reacts alone, Ethan said. That's the mistake. Salith's eyes narrowed. You want to connect others. I want to wake them up, Ethan said simply. He turned back to the terminal embedded in the wreck. With Salith's help, the forest fed power into it again. This time, Ethan wasn't sending fragments. He was shaping something more deliberate. What you're about to do, Salith warned, will reveal your species far more clearly. That's fine, Ethan said. They already see us as a problem. He initiated the transmission. Not a distress signal. A pattern. Human neural logic encoded into rhythm, emotion, and contradiction. A message that looked inefficient, wasteful, chaotic. But buried inside was something uniquely human: cooperation, shared context, emotional inference. To the observers, it will look like noise, Ethan said. To humans, it will feel familiar. Salith felt it when the signal left the forest. A ripple through the pattern, racing outward. They will notice, she said quietly. They already have, Ethan replied. Moments later, the air tore. Not physically, but conceptually. Space folded wrong, like a thought that shouldn't exist. Shapes emerged above the clearing. Smooth. Geometric. Featureless. Observer constructs. They did not land. They hovered, watching. The pressure intensified. Ethan's vision blurred slightly, but he stayed standing. A voice entered his mind, not words, but translated meaning. Human subject. Your deviation exceeds acceptable parameters. Ethan exhaled slowly. You mean I failed the test? You altered the test. That was not permitted. Funny thing about humans, Ethan said calmly. We don't ask permission very well. Salith stood beside him now, unflinching. The forest rose subtly around them, roots lifting like coiled muscles. Your species exhibits instability, the presence continued. Instability leads to collapse. Or innovation, Ethan replied. Depends how you look at it. The pressure increased. Ethan felt something probing again, deeper this time. Not scanning his body, but his intent. He did not resist. He let them see. The human fleet doctrine. The unspoken rule that survival mattered more than pride. The way humans turned loss into data and fear into fuel. The way they bonded under pressure instead of fragmenting. For the first time, the probing hesitated mid-process. This response pattern is inefficient, the presence stated. Ethan smiled. So is love. And jokes. And art. We kept those anyway. The forest surged. Roots cracked stone. Light flared violently. The pattern responded not just to Ethan, but to something else, distant, faint, growing. Salith gasped. They received it. Who? Ethan asked, though he already knew. Other humans, she said. Scattered. Listening. Recognizing. Far away, across stars and hidden channels, human minds felt something stir. A sense of connection. Of warning. Of readiness. The observers reacted instantly. This experiment is terminated. The constructs began to pull back, reality folding again. No, Ethan said firmly. Now it's just starting. He stepped forward. You wanted to know how humans respond when cornered, he said. Here's the answer. The forest pulsed once, violently. Across the pattern, human signals synchronized, not by command, not by hierarchy, but by shared understanding. Salith looked at Ethan with something close to awe. "You didn't just survive." "No," Ethan said. "We coordinated." The constructs vanished. The pressure lifted abruptly, leaving silence behind. Ethan finally let himself breathe. "They'll come back," Salith said. "Yes," Ethan agreed. "But not as observers." She nodded slowly. "They will come prepared." Ethan looked up at the shifting sky, where new constellations were already rearranging. "So will we." Deep in the void, probability models shattered. Humanity was no longer a variable. It was a force. The silence after the observers withdrew was not peaceful. It was the kind of quiet that followed a thunderclap, when the world held its breath, unsure whether the storm was truly over or simply choosing a new direction. Ethan felt it in his bones. The forest slowly relaxed, roots easing understandingly back into the soil, lights dimming to a softer glow. The Veilwood had done what it was meant to do. It had listened. It had protected. And now, it waited. "They will not forget this place," Salith said quietly. Ethan nodded. "Neither will we." Days passed, measured not in hours, but in changes. The sky shifted. The constellations settled into new patterns. The forest adapted, growing pathways where Ethan walked most often, reinforcing shelters where human equipment was integrated. Human ingenuity did not fight the alien world. It collaborated with it. Ethan rebuilt a communicator using parts from the ancient wreck, living conduits grown by the forest, and logic pathways shaped by human problem-solving. It should not have worked. It did. The first human reply came as a whisper of static and relief. Then another. Then dozens. Human ships that had gone dark. Research crews that had been quietly tested. Outposts that had sensed pressure but never understood its source. They were listening now. And more importantly, they were talking to each other. The observers returned sooner than expected. This time, they did not hide. The sky folded open above the forest, revealing a vast structure of shifting geometry. Not a ship. A framework. A mobile decision engine capable of rewriting engagement rules in real time. Salith stiffened. "This is not observation," she said. "This is correction." Ethan stood at the center of the clearing, calm. "They think they can still control the outcome," he said. The presence returned, stronger, colder. Human civilization has exceeded acceptable unpredictability thresholds. Termination will restore balance. Ethan looked up, shielding his eyes from the unnatural light. "You still don't get it," he said. "Clarify." "You think balance means order," Ethan continued. "To us, balance means survival." The forest responded, not violently, but deliberately. Roots anchored deeper. Energy pathways aligned. The pattern surged, not as a weapon, but as a network. Across space, human fleets adjusted positions, not by command, but by shared instinct. Civilian stations rerouted power. Scientists abandoned caution and followed curiosity. Engineers improvised solutions no simulation would ever approve. The observers struck. Energy lanced downward, precise and overwhelming. The forest absorbed it. Not by resisting, but by redistributing. The Veilwood bent the attack through organic channels, diffusing it into harmless light that scattered through the canopy like falling stars. For the first time, the presence hesitated. This outcome was not predicted. Ethan smiled, exhausted but steady. "That's the story of our species," he said. Salith stepped beside him. "The pattern has chosen," she said softly. The framework above them began to destabilize. Its calculations contradicted themselves. Every attempt to correct created new variables faster than it could process. Human unpredictability was no longer noise. It was feedback. The observers withdrew, not in defeat, but in retreat. Not because they were destroyed, but because they had learned something deeply unsettling. Humans could not be solved. When the sky finally closed, The forest sighed. Ethan sank to one knee, the weight of it all finally settling. Salith caught him before he fell. "You did it," she said. "We did," Ethan corrected. Far across the galaxy, alliances quietly shifted. Species once silent began watching humanity not with fear, but with interest. A species that adapted faster than it could be analyzed was not prey. It was a partner. Ethan looked out across the glowing forest, feeling the hum of the pattern fade into something calmer. "They'll test us again someday," he said. "Yes," Salith replied. "But next time, they will ask first." Ethan laughed softly. "Good," he said. "Because humans have a lot to say." And somewhere beyond the stars, the universe adjusted, not around empires, not around machines, but around a stubborn, creative species that refused to behave as expected. Humanity had not just survived the test. Humanity had rewritten it.